Keepin On looks at the journey of aging through the power of music. Hello, I'm Van Owens Hayes, host of the podcast Keepin On, which is brought to you by Walker West Music Academy, where they harness the power of music to foster academic achievement, success, healing, and joy. What helps you keep on doing what you do? Is it music? Music can comfort, heal, inspire, and uplift. It can make you want to sing, dance, tap your foot, create, and learn. Music can help you keep on, keeping on. It's never too late to explore your musical desires and embrace the opportunities for lifelong learning. Walker West faculty member and musician player Tom Wells and singer extraordinaire Thomasina Petrus will share their stories about the benefits of learning and growing through music. Thomasina, you shared with me that Tom was your high school band teacher. Share with us the experience of being taught by him and now being able to perform with him.
Well, I went to North High School in the 4 best years of its legacy, which is 84 to 88. And he was the band teacher, but he wasn't my band teacher. I would sneak down there, though, because I loved music so much. I was a dancer at the time in the dance program, but the teachers there were really part of a learning village. And so they knew that a lot of us artist kids were pulled by all forms of art. So they'd let me go down and listen and be a part of what the band was doing or the choir. And that's how I knew Tom. And then years later, he would teach at my son's high school. And then we started being able to gig together. Once I was kind of out in the real jazz community here and doing music, he had a couple of groups that he slowly kind of would let me contribute vocals to. And now we're gigging kind of on a semi-regular basis. We got a good thing going.
Tom, tell us how it feels to have a former student blossom so successfully in music.
Oh, it's the most rewarding thing, I have to say. And the vivid memory I have of Thomasina is as a dancer, we did the Whiz at North High, and she danced the Tornado, and she had a long 15-foot cloth afro attached to her head, and there was somebody on the other end of it doing it, and during the tornado scene, she was dancing at it. Pretty amazing. And we heard that she sung, and I said, that's nice, but didn't ever really get a chance to hear her too much. So it's wonderful now. It's a dream come true. She's terrific.
I still want to see that, because I don't dance anymore, but I still want to see that.
How have each of you grown through music?
Well, I've been really lucky. All of my music really has been influenced by my local, my local elders, mentors. Cornbread Harris, James Cornbread Harris, was my first mentor in music here. My mother started seeing that I really loved and was drawn to jazz music, even when I was dancing very seriously. My intent was to go to New York after I graduated and audition for Alvin Ailey, and in my mind become a principal dancer there. But I had already started falling in love with jazz music, and a lot of the elders would volunteer their time to come and do residencies at North. Cornbread would volunteer his time to do residencies in the parks, the Music in the Park series. And so as a 15-year-old, my mother took me to Nokomis Park, where years later I would marry. And I was introduced to Cornbread Harris and Billy Holloman, who was known here for playing the B3 Hammond organ. And those two would volunteer their time and teach young people how to sing jazz. And I picked a song out of the jazz book, out of his fake book, and it was Billie Holiday's God Bless the Child. And from there, it was like a light went on inside my body. And he really took me under his wing and taught me, the basics of jazz. And that sort of is my beginning. And when I sing, I'm still dancing. When I do theater, I'm still singing and dancing. It's all in there. So I still get to do all of it through music.
Wonderful. How about you, Tom?
The question was, again?
How have you grown through music?
Oh, yeah. Well, I would have to, it would be remiss if I did not mention my family. My parents, both musicians, met in music school in Kalamazoo. We had a family band growing up. My dad was principal bass of the orchestra, taught in the public schools, gigged. They're always teaching lessons in the house. We have, in our family, 14 degrees of music from Western Michigan University, and so we lived and breathed it. It was all the time happening. And so I was just very blessed, and I wanted to do nothing more than to just be like my father when I grew up. So I think I'm pretty close. Pretty close to that. But that's how I got started. It was just there. It was just there.
Well, you've been a teacher and still are a teacher of music. And so share with us some of the stories you've learned through teaching.
Oh, boy. Well, I think, and I've had a wonderful experiences. I think probably the greatest thing that I learned from was actually at North High School in the 80s. There were small numbers of kids who were playing instruments when I came into the place. Not a lot of people had that experience. And so running a jazz ensemble, for instance, wasn't going to happen with 4 trombones and 5 trumpets and 5 saxes and a full rhythm section. The people weren't there for that. So it was totally all about running jazz combos and making it work with the instruments that you had there. And that forced me to capitalize on the strengths that the students came in with. So some of them came in and they had never read music before, totally kinetic drummer who had never, but played in church all the time, and a guitar player who had never read music before and didn't even know that a chord had a third in it. Everything was power chords. And then somebody who was classically trained on another instrument, and they come in and they can read everything they want. And there's someone else who's a team player, and they know how to make things work and have things in a section. And they all entered the jazz room through a different door, but they're all playing at the same time. And in a way, they each blew each other away. Like, how do you do that? And they would say, well, how do you do that? And to see that happening all within one piece of music, within one room, amongst this diverse thing, taught me that, okay, there's something happening here, and people can discover themselves as a member of this group.
I want to add that, being around teachers and elders, I've always been attracted to a set of minds and thinking and practices that have more history than I do. Most of my dear friends are always at least a little older than I am. Not to say that I have people that I don't connect with that are my own age, but I've always been drawn to people who have a mindset that has history. I think that's why I love jazz so much, because it represents so much of not just my history, but my world's history. There's so much about jazz, and particularly Billie Holiday. Anybody who knows me more than 10 minutes knows that I have this deep sense of honor and respectability towards Billie Holiday's contribution to history, but just the mindset of people who have experienced things in life, who've had I'm excited, who have had time to reflect and work through the passion or the high energy of something that's happened in the world and reflect on it in a way that's like, okay, this is how you do things better. I think I've always been attracted to the idea of being taught, always being a learner, a lifelong learner. And that half of that is the listening, and listening to people who have maybe even not an opinion that is your opinion, or an idea or an experience from their life that they lived that is anything near to what you have, but being able to be in a room with people who have other things to share through actual life experiences. That's the value of a community of elders who've had a chance to live a totally different life and can share that with you. That's part of lifelong learning too. And so being able to continue music in that way, to be in a room with people that are my age musically and my age in that way, but can enlighten me on things that they've seen and heard already. That is invaluable to me as a singer. I mean, I didn't know I could certainly listen to somebody scat and learn how to mimic that sound. But to listen to a person like Walter Chancellor play the saxophone with all of his experience. He's not much older than me, but I consider him like an older brother. The experience of what he's learned in the world put on his instrument brings out something in me as a singer and a scatter that it's unexplainable, but it comes from knowing someone else's history through their music. And I think a lot of people who may decide to pick up an instrument or engage in music in a way that they can tell their story and leave a history, a body of work that they can pass on to their kids or just their other friends. But being in a room with musicians, it's more than about making sounds. It's actually about teaching and exchanging a life energy. I don't know if I'm getting too mystical, but
The way you describe it, it sounds like music connects us across generations.
exact generations, cultures. I mean, musicians always say that, but when you're thinking about it in terms of, I don't know, maybe enticing someone to who never thought they would ever play an instrument, who never thought that they would engage in listening to different kinds of music in a group of other people and using that as a conversation piece to talk about things in the world. You know, we still have so much life in us, just like, I don't know, the metaphor of things that are aged, that have more value the older they become. These instruments that are invaluable, that are, the wood is aged in a way that you just can't replicate it by making something new. You know, the sounds of older instruments, older wines, you know what I mean? The value of age, it's just something that can't be replicated.
That sounds so complimentary as an older person. I like to think of myself as aging like fine wine. It's wonderful.
Well, it's an honor, too. I mean, I've sung as a singer. Particularly this last year has been difficult because I always consider it an honor to sing for people's homegoings. And in that I get to be in a room where people are honoring a life. And the lives that are, me as a singer, I'm bringing some sense of my ideas, that I'm bringing some sense of joy or some sense of relief or beauty to the moment that at least acts as a balm. Because it's painful to let anyone go, whether they're young or old. But to listen to people who've lived a full life, it's always wonderful to hear how much learning was involved in that life. I was just honored to send home a woman named Joyce. I think her last name was Clinton. But she worked at Sabathani for years, never married, never had children, but was this ballroom dancer. And they had all these pictures of her when she used to be this ballroom dancer. I mean, she could literally be the body double for Diane Carroll. She had these huge, beautiful dimples, and this beautiful woman had led this life, and all of these nieces and nephews stood up and talked about just how she touched their lives and how much they learned from her just by being in these places in the world. It was just, I got a little off track, but there's just so much to do still.
Well, I know Tom has worked a little with Amazing Grace Chorus, and he's been teaching people who thought they'd never play. So you want to tell us a little bit about that as part of lifelong learning?
Sure, and I know episode 1 you talked with the Amazing Grace people, and I will not refer to them too much right now, except it's wonderful to be a part of that group. Wonderful to be a part of an organization that, first of all, just loves being with each other, and they are so sweet to each other. We are so sweet to each other in that group. I love being part of that. I want to make sure I get back to the right part of that question. You were asking, yes. For instance, I had imagined that ukulele is an easy instrument for seniors to learn. It's only 4 strings. They're easy to press down. They're far enough apart. And so I have had the experience of having a couple ukulele students, elderly people. And one woman in particular, she had some arthritis in her left hand, was really having trouble, and so we switched to a right-handed ukulele. We switched the strings, we turned it around, and she's having success doing that. And it's very exciting to see that, because she was really all along second-guessing herself. I don't think I can do this. No, I don't think. And I've had that with young students before, and I found that the same encouragement is, no, I think you can do this. Let's construct a construct a successful experience and build on that successful experience, and then you've got 2 or 3 successful experiences, and then they expect they will be successful. So that has been very fun to work with seniors. And then I'd work with the adult jazz combo at Walker West, and a very common story amongst them is that they have been playing by themselves, practicing their instruments by themselves in their homes, and they come in and their sense of rhythm is not real advanced. They're used to making a mistake doing something and going back over and fixing it. And when you're playing with a group of people, you can't do that. And they oftentimes are very discouraged, like, but the experience of staying with a group and making your mistakes in real time and continuing on is quite profound for them. And they love the class. They love doing that because it's sort of like, you go through life and, you make mistakes, but you go on. And that lesson, doing that in jazz combo and making your mistakes into something that sometimes comes out pretty nicely. You get yourself in a fix and get yourself out of it, and oh man, that worked. So that has been very fun. The seniors have really responded well in that way.
I hear such joy and love when both of you talk about music. Why? Why does it elicit that kind of response in you?
Because for me to sing, my body is still dancing. I can sing a song, and in my mind, I hear all the musicians. Like when I'm writing a song, I hear all the music, but I don't play any instruments, so I just have to use my voice. But it also is moving something inside of me where I would really feel like I'm dancing. But there's also the interpretation of the song, so it's like theater too. So I get to use all of it. And I really can only sing because I have joy. So singing is joy for me. Music is joy for me. In fact, this past year, I had written a song, second verse to Strange Fruit, after the lynching that happened here in last May. And I couldn't sing it. I had written it, but I couldn't sing it. And I had to go and recite it to a teacher, to Marcia Howard, who's kept a vigil there for a year. My son's high school English teacher, who now he is going to become a high school English teacher because of her. But I went and recited the poem to her because I had no joy. But these words and this music were coming out of me. And so as a musician, singer, writer now, I'm very conscious of how the words and the message and the story will go down in history, in my history. And so that's part of the learning that I hope to, as an elder now, to give to the world, so that that's what's left of me, is joy and love and kindness through music.
When you ask about joy in music, I connect music to community all the time. When I was growing up, it was my family band that we really enjoyed playing together. And I found out that when I write music, I do better when I have an assignment. David Baker down at Indiana, where I got my jazz studies degree, he says, well, I want you to write a tune that's got a James Brown type bass line and it does this and this. And then it was, okay, I can do that. Or Thomasina mentioned this piece, she wanted to do, and I had an idea what the concert was going to do, and so we worked on that together. It was an assignment, but it was connected to this community. Or we need a tune that we can march down the street to for the Selby Jazz Festival. And I imagine who are the people in the booths that are working in those booths going by, and we're walking by them. And so it flows. The music flows when I think about the community that it's connected to and myself in that community. And so that just becomes fun. I mean, it just becomes a whole lot of fun when that can happen.
Well, we believe that music is lifelong, for appreciation and for learning. If there was one thing you could say about lifelong learning in music, what would it be?
Well, I've never thought of anything stopping for me in my curiosity about the world and life and just how to be a better person. As I get older and my kids grow up, I'm restructuring my life now and thinking, it's not just about me, which was my younger years. It's about you. And then when you have kids, it's about them. And now it's kind of back to me rediscovering me. So I almost feel like everything feels new. Now that I have those life experiences, things just feel new now. And I can try anything I want. I can learn anything I want at the pace I want to learn it. I mean, I could still go and take a class on welding if I wanted to. If I was fascinated with welding or glass making, or I love music. Music is a part of my life. I'm a professional musician. But different kinds of music that I would never think of singing myself. I have the time to navigate, to learn, and get myself involved in whatever I want, which is a wonderful thing to realize when you've mastered time and how to use your time, and the value of you figure out the cycle of work to pay to this, and when you get older, you start realizing, well, I don't really need that. That'll allow me more time, and I don't really need to do that anymore, and that allows me more time, and then I don't have to necessarily even be involved with those people. Guess what? Now I have more time. There's a value in that kind of, the reverie of wisdom. And so you appreciate the time you have. And you can use it however you want. Why wouldn't you learn something new? What else would you be doing?
It became evident to me when I was an adult that I grew up without a fear of growing old. I did not have a fear of growing old, and I didn't even, it was normal to me until I came around people and I realized that they were afraid of growing old. They grew up as children even, like, I don't want to be like my parents. This doesn't look like much fun. I did not have a fear of growing old. My dad had a little child inside him, and he let him out to play every day. And some of that was through music and other places, I just get excited about learning new things, new instruments, writing a new piece of music, and seeing that happen in other adults too. I mean, I've seen it happen. The light go on. Like, teaching was so much fun. When you see a kid's eyes light up and they get it. The same thing happens with adults, and it's the same wonderful feeling.
Well, you two are helping me do something new, because I've never done a podcast before.
Really?
And so
this is great.
This is a new adventure, but that's what getting older is about, is taking on new things and doing what makes you feel joy.
God, I agree with that 100%. That's exactly what I want to say. And I'm going to take that and act like I thought that up the very next time somebody asks me this question. That's exactly right. I've never had a fear of growing old. The thing I feared the most was losing people, knowing the cycle of life, people pass on. And in losing my mother this last year, and on top of everything else.
You and me both.
Yeah, I just thought, what am I going to do now? And all the things she taught me just come back. All the things that stay with me from her are things about love and learning and kindness. Those things she instilled in me all the time. And so it's the first time in this moment is the first time I've actually been able to really understand that. That's a perfect answer, that I was never afraid of growing old. And I have every intention of getting as old as I possibly can.
Well, we've made it, or we are making it through the pandemic. And music can be inspiring and challenging and healing. What has music during this period done for you?
Well, I know that I've been writing a lot more. And, I miss playing live, of course, concerts and jazz gigs and stuff. So I've been writing a lot. My husband, who's also a reggae producer, they've done those Zoom concerts. So people are trying to, keep playing even when they're isolated, because, I mean, really, we can't not do it. I mean, can you imagine a world? I used to ask my kids this. Can you imagine a world with no music? Like if there was no music at all, you got into an elevator, there's no corny music playing there. There's no music as you're on the phone. There's just no music. It's hard to imagine and realize that music is really everywhere. And it does stimulate people to shop, to sleep, to meditate. Music moves the body, moves the soul. I mean, music really is soul play. And without it, I don't know, it's hard to explain it's hard to explain how to navigate the world without it, because we've definitely found whatever way we could to keep it going. And it's nowhere near being in the presence of live music and live musicians who you can tell really love their instrument. Not taking anything away from people who produce music, on a computer, but to see a band of people playing an instrument that they've spent time with. They know the structure, they know how to take care of it and clean it and repair it. I mean, there's just something different about that. And to be able to pick up an instrument at any age and start that learning process. I remember when I first picked up a flute, because that was my first instrument. Just being able to make that sound, or being in a room and deciding you're going to try to sing something and being off, because I used to sing off key when I was nervous. I would go, I don't know where the song would wind up, but Cornbread and Billy, they'd pound on the piano so that I could hear the notes and try to find my way back to the actual key. But I remember that feeling of feeling so lost and so small in the learning of it, and then getting it piece by piece, and really being able to see your progress, however slow your progress was, because sometimes my progress could be very slow, because at times I'm a slow learner, but just over time to really find your voice in a different way.
So during the pandemic, what did music, that's what you were asking, right? what music did for me. It really came down to imagining music I heard in the past, music that I would play in the future, and sitting by myself in my studio, playing music by myself. I would play with, play along CDs and do all that kind of stuff, but it was connected to a community, connected, like I said before, and being able to imagine something new happening.
Well, I know you're very creative and have been doing some different things. Since you've been teaching a little by Zoom, I know you created a song, so if you could share with us.
Yeah, this is, I imagine this song to be sung with a group of seniors all playing ukulele for the first time. It has 3 chords, 3 basic chords. It's easy to sing. It's not hard to do. And sometimes, as a musician, we can sometimes take ourselves too seriously, and music is serious business. When we were working on that piece that we talked about with Thomasina and I, we were serious about this. But when you pick up a ukulele, you can't really be too serious, and so this is the result of the lighter side of music. A little while ago, I came into this world, having mastered a bodily function or two. In the following years, see how I've unfurled. Now I'm Thornton and wheezing right in front of you. You might say I'm cute, but I'm not completely harmless, and I wouldn't always trust that I would stay awake. Just put me on a route to a sofa that ain't armless, and I'll try to mind my business for everyone's sake. Yes, I'm still kicking, and it's safer if you're not right in front of me, 'cause I ain't chicken to get what's coming to me. I'm quick to sit down, and I'm slow to get up, but I'm not at all sorry I'm here. I can still drink my fill of the life in my cup. I can still live life without fear. Yes, I'm still kicking, and you're safer if you're not right in front of me, 'cause I ain't chicken to get what's coming to me. I'm not done. Get what's coming to me. Now now I'm done.
That, I know, makes everybody smile and want to learn the ukulele. And so, this time it sparked some creativity as we try to connect with each other. And so I want to thank the two of you for your talent and your gifts and sharing them constantly with others. Because music is inspirational, it's challenging, and as we can see on your faces, it's joyful. So thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you to today's guest and to you, our listening audience, for joining us today. As Plato says, music gives a soul to the universe, wings to the mind, flight to the imagination, and life to everything. Until next time, keep keeping on.
Oh, I still got it going on. Gonna keep on. I got pep in my step.